So hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pro Football Report on ADSN. I'm Charles Arbuckle, joined by Colin, 13-year NFL vet, former Carolina Panther, and University of Iowa standout. I see the logo, so I got you there. And this is a big week, another big test for the Panthers as they travel to Tampa. And let's get right to it. I think the Buccaneers didn't have as good a game last week as they have wanted to, Colin. So we'll talk about them first. Tell me your impressions of Tom Brady, the newly redesigned offense with him, Gronk, who didn't play a big role last week. They got Leonard Fournette. Tell us your thoughts about this Tampa Bay offense and what challenges they will present to the Carolina Panthers.
Well, let's make sure we make it clear that that team that played this past weekend against New Orleans Saints, who could potentially be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl this year, is definitely one of the tougher teams that they have to play on their schedule. New Orleans is very tough. Obviously, we got to play them twice here in Carolina, but the thing about Tampa Bay in that game, the turnovers is what killed him. Tom Brady threw a couple of interceptions, one pick six, fumbles. I think that it's going to take time. You know, they have a lot of talent between some of the names that you mentioned, Fournette and Gronk, but we can't forget Ronald Jones, who's their leading rusher coming back this year. Defensively, schematically, they are a very fast defense, particularly looking at them last week against the Saints. Levante David was amazing sideline to sideline. You can't forget Ndamukong Suh and some of those other guys up front. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge. And, again, the Saints – they were able to put up some points, but it was not because it came to them easily whatsoever.
Number 10 was Scottie Miller, and he did have a good game, and he was one of his favorite targets. Let's take a listen to Byron Leftwich this week talking about that offense and Tom Brady and the things that will happen with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team.
He's the best for a reason. The way that his mind worked, the way that he see the game, like I said, he's a special guy. He's a unique guy because the way he sees football. And, you know, I don't expect nothing different from him. I expect him he's going to come in and do what he can, bring energy, bring excitement to the game, to the team, and do all the things possible for us to execute at a high level. Just continuously giving everybody opportunities to make plays and be themselves and be them best selves. That's all I talk to these guys about. Just go out there and try to be your best self.
Well, you know, the one thing that was interesting to me, the post-game, Bruce Arians came out and said a couple of things about Tom Brady. I don't worry about that because I've known Bruce for years. He's a hard quarterback coach, but he's a guy that can help you get better. Byron Leftwich is the offensive coordinator there now. I can remember Byron Leftwich calling his games when he was at Marshall, being carried down the field by his offensive line against Akron. The one thing I mean, being in the league as long as you have, facing Tom Brady so many times, what is it going to be different this week for him and that offense? You mentioned Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. I think the run game is the best thing for him at his age and with his ability with those weapons around him.
You know, that is absolutely true. And obviously, one of the things that drew Tom Brady to this offense has to be the playmakers that he has outside at the wide receiver position. Last week, Mike Evans didn't get a catch until I believe in the third quarter, which was a touchdown, but he was shut down. And then they also have a couple of other guys who have played very well between Godwin and another young man, number 10. I can't think of his name right now, but he was kind of Tom's go-to guy at the end of the game the other night. So I think that once they get a little bit more continuity, get a little more opportunity to kind of play with each other, I should say, they'll continue to grow. They'll continue to get better, and they'll be a better team. So it's going to be a difficult task for the Panthers defense going into this game. And, you know, Tom Brady, you know, he is, just like he said in his own comments, you know, he's lost a lot of games just as he's won a number of games in his career. So this is just another one under his belt. He moves on from last week. And the best part about football is you got another game coming up. So they'll look to bounce back, and we'll look to take care of that business once we go on the road.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the Pro Football Report on ADSN.
Hi, I'm Mike Gardner, founder of Thin Energy, the wellness energy that delivers each and every time. In 6 weeks that I've been taking Thin Energy, I feel fantastic.
I lost 7 pounds in the first week.
You just squeeze it in, you take a shot, and you're done.
Go get your drinks, get your hype, get you ready.
I feel great.
Jump on, try Thin Energy.
Drink it, live it.
Thin Energy.
All right, welcome back to the Pro Football Report on ADSN. I've got Colin Colt, 13-year NFL vet, wearing his Iowa Hawkeye pride on his chest there. But hey, I got to talk to you this week, and we got to dig into the Panthers. I just look at this situation with them. The Panthers lead the all-time series, 24-15, but the Bucs have won 2 of the past 3. So the thing with the Panthers, and I talked about this, and you and I talked off air about it, I felt offensively they were going to be really good. But defensively, that's a step back. And what is the defense going to have to do for them against these high-powered teams in the NFC South and when they play other teams? Just like the Raiders. The Raiders were able to march down the field with the run game. They didn't get much resistance on third down. David Carr may have been touched 5 times the whole game. Tell us from your perspective, you were a coaching intern with the Panthers this offseason. You've gotten a chance to really get even more closer than you have been before. Tell us what that defense has to do to stop this Buccaneers offense.
And so, having the opportunity, like we mentioned, we had an opportunity to kind of speak off air about the team. And, I think that some of the big factors going into this game that they really have to address moving forward is going to have to start up front. They spent the first round pick, obviously, with Derek Brown out of Auburn, extremely talented young man. Brian Burns from last year, so I think they have a good core group of guys, defensive line-wise, linebacker, and secondary. Up front, we start. I think that they have to do a better job of getting pressure. No pressures last week, no sacks last week. We have to do a better job of not allowing outside or inside runs. We got to take over the line of scrimmage as a defensive front. And looking at Tampa Bay's front, looking at Tampa Bay's offensive line, I feel like we could definitely win that matchup coming up this week. Into the linebacking core, it's obviously without Luke, there's definitely have to be people to step up and stand up. And Shaq Thompson is that guy who has been in the system and has been a part of the program for a number of years. Tahir Whitehead, who's taken over for Khalil, for Luke in terms of middle linebacker. At times we didn't see him this past weekend, so he's going to have to come. He's going to have to step his game up, and so I think everybody's going to fall in line as it pertains to that, and it's going to be a difficult task. The secondary, particularly if Dante Jackson can't go, we don't know the extent of his injury, and hopefully he can go this upcoming week. But defense in the secondary, we definitely have to step up because it's going to be a very difficult task between Godwin and Mike Evans. So I believe that. As difficult of a task as it is with this young coaching staff, they're going to challenge these players on defense to step up their game and come into Sunday's game going down into Tampa with a different fire and a different vigor for sure.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, and I think this is the one thing that people aren't really looking at, and they have, but from a player perspective, not having preseason. I know as an older vet, when I got to my 3rd or 4th year in the league, I hated preseason games, but I needed them to get ready to play. I think you've got a lot of young guys, especially the Panthers on defense. Derek Brown has never played an NFL game until he stepped on the field. What is that going to be like? Because usually you can see progression from week 1 to week 2, but there were a lot of things on defense. You mentioned Tahir Whitehead, not a guy that's played a whole lot in those situations where he is the main guy. He's been the main guy, but you are so used to seeing a Luke Kuechly. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the mindset of not having preseason and then having to play.
Experiencing this firsthand, being a part of training camp and experiencing it firsthand, obviously after having gone through 13 training camps of my own, really understanding what you get out of having to do these things. Just like you said, we didn't necessarily like preseason games, but we knew that we needed them, obviously, to prepare ourselves for the regular season. Without having those preseason games this season, really puts those guys behind the 8 ball. And as much as you try to simulate, as much as you try to put into position those guys in practice to simulate game reps, to simulate game speed, you and I both know that's not possible to do. So having the opportunity to have those preseason games it put them in a disadvantage, but it put a lot of other teams at a disadvantage. But them even more so with a new coaching staff coming in with a new scheme on defense, a new scheme on offense, particularly defense, is going to continue to grow, and they're going to continue to get better at it. And, the more you rep it, the more you get better at it. And the only way to get better at it is to actually have those live game reps, which this is the opportunity that they're going to have, and they're going to get better with the more play that they have. But it's been a struggle. Last week was definitely a struggle. And I think that, again, with a whole new coaching staff, and a whole new implementation of a whole new scheme, it's difficult. But they're going to bounce back, and they're going to be fine. It's going to take a little bit of time to merge and gel and all that good stuff. But guys like we mentioned, like Derrick Brown and some of the other young talent, because we got to think about it, the entire draft was defensive guys. And so everybody on that draft class has a learning curve and has to, obviously learn the playbook as well as learn how to be professional players in the NFL. So
the one good thing, the one thing I was going to say too, Chris Godwin is a concussion protocol, so not sure if he's going to play, if he's been ruled out yet. Mike Evans, with the injury to his hamstring, may be limited. I think he was limited in practice this week. But let's take a listen to what the Panthers coaches and players said this week about the last game and the one coming up this week against Tampa Bay.
Well, I thought the guys did a nice job in the second half of rallying, of adjusting. It's just one of those things you get in the first game and you're tackling. You're trying to see, hey, where's our tackling at? Getting off blocks. So this game presents a whole different set of problems, different run schemes. So we're gonna have to just play well. I think for all of us, we weren't happy with the screen game coming out of last week. This is another team that's excellent in the screen game, taking away the run game, both the power run game and the outside zone game. So I was pleased with the adjustments our guys made at halftime. I was pleased with, because really we were on our way to a 180-yard game, giving up. So for them to turn it in the second half, I was pleased. We just have to carry that over. We did into today's practice, hopefully, and carry that over into next week.
It's a thin line between trying to get after the quarterback, but also being disciplined enough to slow your rush down to stop the run. I mean, it's a thin line that we have to kind of figure out. But with enough film study, it'll come to us. Like it's more of a feeling than like a plan before the snap.
I'm pretty sure any one of us would love to get a pick six off of Tom Brady. We all know where he stands in being one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. But we just got to put a pocket around him where our D-line get after him and force him to make some ill-advised throws.
With Teddy Bridgewater getting comfortable, he looked good at times. There were times he missed on some throws, but he and Robbie Anderson seemed to get right together quickly. Christian McCaffrey, I think this is going to help him if the ball is distributed to different people, which Joe Brady wants to do consistently. The one thing that I heard all week is that why didn't Christian McCaffrey run that ball on 4th and 1? What are your thoughts on that as a defensive guy, knowing that the offense wants to give the ball to CMC as many times as possible? Were you okay with that call, or what are your thoughts about that call on 4th and 1?
It's interesting you asked that question. I've never been really an armchair quarterback, in front of camera. But honestly, if I were to say anything about that decision, I would say that, yes, you want your playmaker to have the ball in his hand in that situation. But looking at the situation, 4th and 1, with limited time left in the game, you look back to why you would make a call like that. And honestly, they converted on that very same play at least twice in the game earlier. And Armour made that run. So it's not something that was so far left that he was, like out of left field. Like, where did they come up with that? Like, he actually converted on 3rd and 4th shorts twice in the game prior to that run. So they were just kind of leaning on what had worked earlier. But at the same time, considering what the situation was in the game, you got to consider that they're going to load everything up in the box to try to shut down anything up the middle. So it would have behooved them to try and get something out on the edge. But, we all second-guess choices all the time. So it's always great to just say, hey, he should have done it, he should have done that. But if he would have converted that 4th and 1, and they've gone on to march down the field and score, then, tables are turned. The narrative is completely different. But in all honesty, when you look at sports and you play sports, you often go with the numbers and what has worked. And honestly, what worked in that game on short yardage was Alex Armour right up the middle, and he was able to nudge out a yard or two whenever he was called upon beforehand. So I don't disagree with the call because, especially with a defensive-minded head coach. Defensive-minded head guys are always more along the lines of, let's just do what we need to do to get what we need to get, run offense and good defense, and let's not take too many risks. Let's mitigate those risks when we can and put ourselves in the best positions to get those easy ones. And that's what he was doing.
I agree with you 100%. We got to look at the injury report for the Panthers. Shaq Thompson practiced on Thursday. He had a groin injury last year. Dante Jackson, you mentioned earlier, had an ankle. Kawan Short, foot. Dennis Daly, ankle. So with all those guys, to me, that's a little bit of the lack of preseason offensively. What do you see for the next week with the Panthers, knowing that you saw them every single day in practice during the preseason? And the one thing I thought is that usually defenses beat offenses in training camp. But tell me what you saw when you watched this team on the offensive side go against that defense for the Panthers every day.
It was something that was completely different from any training camp that I've been a part of in terms of just seeing a high potent offense score at, I don't want to say at will, but move the ball and able to score on a daily basis. I honestly had never seen it, but that was what Joe Brady's offense did consistently throughout training camp. So it's going to be interesting to see how well this offense does, considering what his offense did at LSU last year and how they were able to win the national championship. Obviously, it's really it's derived from New Orleans and Sean Payton's offense. So it's a high-powered, explosive offense. So I think that's a large reason as to why Teddy Bridgewater is able to kind of adapt so well to the offense, because he's probably been hearing some of the terminology or seeing some of the schematics for the last year or two. So this offense, it's got the ability to really be one of the most potent, most explosive offenses in the NFL in the 2020 season. And I'm excited to see where it goes, especially being last week was their first real dry run of running any kind of, at a fast tempo, at game speed. I was really impressed, and I'm excited to see how things move forward for the season. But I do want to say that the injury to Daly is going to be a pretty significant one. Schofield stepped in and did a pretty good job, but Dennis Daly, I think he's a very big part of where they see their running game and their passing game being strong, as particularly on the inside and keeping Teddy upright without any pressure from the interior D tackles.
5, 4.
Well, that's we talk so much about football on the field, but I know one thing in the locker room when that GQ magazine came out. I just want you guys to all look at Christian McCaffrey with the cowboy hat and the scarf. That's all I'm going to say, because, Colin, you know as well as I do, man, guys will have that on the locker room everywhere. It's great opportunity for them, but that's a great chance for guys to Joan on you. What do you think about him being in GQ and basically looking like one of the sexiest men alive?
You know what? I applaud him. I commend him for putting himself out there and taking that opportunity. But you pretty much put yourself out there and put yourself in a position where you're going to pretty much be open to pretty much any comment that comes out. And it's all in good fun, good nature. But at the end of the day, but hey, he's well deserving of that accolade. And yeah, man, it's pretty awesome to know that he's done something like that.
We're going to take a quick break, but hopefully Christian McCaffrey will get all his offensive linemen the cowboy hat, the scarves, and the Calvin Klein underwear. We'll be right back after these messages.
All right.
I'm Marshall Falk.
I'm Glenn Parker.
Hi, I'm Dusty Baker, manager of the Houston Astros, and you're looking and listening to Chopping It Up with Buck.
I know you wanna leave, and I refuse to let you go. I mean, if it's gonna be chopping it up, we gotta talk some food, wine.
Chopping it up.
Chopping it up.
Chopping it up.
Chopping it up. You are the first to hear about this.
It was like his head swiveled like Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
This guy just did it with some bums.
I'd have a full six-pack if I didn't eat tacos. I love tacos.
You're watching Chopping It Up with Buck.
Chopping it up with Buck.
Oh, that's why.
I'm Maria Taylor, and you're watching Chopping It Up with Buck.
All right, we're back with Pro Football Report on ADSN. Got my man Colin Cole, C-Square. See, hey, this is some game everybody's looking for in Carolina. What do you think about this? How do they bounce back from last week's performance against the Raiders versus the Buccaneers? I think this is an excellent opportunity for this team to show what they can do. Really getting pressure on Tom Brady is going to be key, but what are some of your keys for this week's game?
And just like you said, pressure. Pressure's always been the one thing that Tom Brady has had difficulty in playing against, and that's been throughout his career. The one thing about it is that the big thing for Tampa Bay right now is finding their identity, finding who they are. They made a big trade, obviously, in landing Leonard Fournette. They already have Ronald Jones. They already have LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. So I think that their identity is to run the ball and to try and establish that and to be that first and foremost. And to try to beat you up, and then to air it out when they need to, and only when they need to. I think that the one thing about it is going in, considering that Manning went to Denver, they had a very strong defense and they had a very strong running game. He didn't have to do much but manage the game, and I think that's the role that they see Tom being in this offense, is not demanding a whole lot out of him other than to manage the game. They put the pieces around him, better pieces than he had in the last couple of years in New England, and he's obviously going to be stronger once they get more time to gel. But at the end of the day, I think we have more than enough to step up to the task, especially offensively. Defensively, we're going to have to step up compared to last week, and I think we definitely have the talent to do so. So I'm looking forward to a great matchup this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you on defense. Shaq Thompson with 12 tackles. He's a tackling machine all over the field. I think he plays a big role. Tahir Whitehead can't play that poorly again this week. I think he bounces back. Hey, man, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for tuning in this week's Pro Football Report on ADSN. Be sure to follow all our social media channels and visit the website at adsn1.com for sports content around the Carolinas. And also, you can see my show, Chopping It Up with Buck. We do it every week. We have a great time just talking to folks. Colin's going to be on soon. I haven't been able to tie him down because he's got the Iowa Hawkeyes. He doesn't want to talk to a UCLA guy, but that's a whole other thing. For my host, Colin Cole, and everyone here at the network, I'm Charles Arbuckle. See you next time on the Pro Football Report on ADSN.